Warning, using anything other than the factory supplied battery charger will probably void the warranty on the battery. Those LiPo batteries are quite pricey, so do this only if you are an individual who believes in personal responsibility.
Okay, it's been more than a year and 800 miles further down the road, all on solar power. And the battery's in fine shape. I even accidentally overcharged it a couple of times. I also found a charge controller, a small charge controller, and I'll append that to the end of this video.
I generally use the solar charger when the bike is at home and just keep it off the bicycle. Although it can be mounted on the bicycle, as I'll show you later, and it would extend your range about 10% in normal use. With it off the bicycle, if I just come home and charge it, it supplies all the energy that I need for the bike uh, for the course of normal use. What I'm saying is that if it were on the bike, it's only going to give you probably 5 to 10% more range for that continuous use. But it does charge the battery up all the way. It charges when it's parked, and it charges when it's off the bicycle. So it just takes a while. It puts out about 1/4 the power of the factory supplied charger. So under direct sunlight, it would take maybe 4 times as long to recharge your battery. I'm really happy with this little meter that I found. It only costs about $15. And it monitors the voltage, the current in amps, the power in watts, and the watt hours that it has generated. Um, there is no charge controller on this system. And the way I decided to tell when it was fully charged is I first charged up the battery till it was fully charged with the factory supplied charger. Then I immediately plugged it in, took the battery and plugged the solar powers into it and monitored the voltage, which was 54.77 volts. So I realized that was full charge. So now I just charge it until the meter says 54.77 volts. And if you unplug the plug from the battery so that there's no load on it, the voltage goes way up. As you see here, it jumps up to 82 volts. This is just from the panel now. It's not putting out any current or any wattage because it's not connected to the battery. You put it on the battery again, and the voltage will drop down to the charge of the battery, and you'll see your current go back up again. So again, it's a pretty nifty meter, and it's only like $15. Oh, I'm really happy with that. The wiring is quite simple, as you see here in the back. It's just wire the two 24-volt panels in series. Added a couple of fuses here and there. It's good to have a volt ohm meter to check your polarities and connections as you go along the way. The only thing that was at all confusing is there's a diagram on the back of the meter, and it's just a way that it's labeled. It's labeled for a conventional use, and go around the other side so you can see it better. But what looks like a schematic showing a battery is actually the solar panels in this configuration. And what is the load in this diagram is actually the battery, the bicycle battery. So you might have to just draw it up so it makes more sense to you. Again, what they show here as a battery is actually the panels, and what they show as the load is actually the battery in this situation. And it's supplied with a shunt. You have to wire that just as it shows there. I should point out that those readings were taken on a hazy, sunny day, and normally it will put out 25 watts under direct sunshine. I've tried a couple of different methods of mounting the panels to the bike, but what I'm using right now is there are 4 drilled and tapped holes that were on the bike rack that's already there. So I bought some long screws, screwed them in as far as they'd go, and still stuck out about an inch and a quarter. Cut off the heads and used wing nuts to fasten it on with the back of the solar panel. And if you notice, it's hinged. I can still lift it up and get at the panniers, and it doubles as an air brake when going down the steep hills that is Astoria. I wrapped the excess cable, the charging cable, around the frame of the bike just to take up the slack. Not very elegant, I can tell you that, but it does work. I plug it in. I plug it in. Yeah, put on my helmet and I'm ready to go. Turn it on, and I'll be right back. It works for me. Hope it works for you. Happy trails as you ride off into the sunset.
This is a small solar charge controller that I did find, but it had two problems, and I did not research it enough. One is that its source voltage needs to be lower than the output voltage, and that could be done with wiring the panels in parallel instead of series. But I wanted to keep the option of having the direct charge with the panels in series. It could be done with some rectifiers and some switches, but the bigger problem is that it takes about 2 minutes to initialize and start charging it, even if you go into a brief shadow as you're riding along. So it will work on a stable position, one where you're not moving, but if you're moving, this is just not going to work. So what I did is I have a small solar charging system for the house, and I can bring it inside and hook it up to the 12-volt batteries, which are taking solar power from the roof into those batteries and charging them up. So it's still solar power, but I hook it up to the 12-volt batteries and into the bikes and output into the bike's battery. And this throwing this switch here, a little difficult to do with one hand, simulates going into a shadow. So I'm going to turn it on and I'll show you how long it takes to initialize. Yeah, trying to turn it on. Need another hand to hold the camera. There we go. Okay, the top voltage is the battery voltage coming from the solar panels on the roof. And you see it's initializing. It's ramping up the voltage here. I have it set for 54.66 as being the fully charged voltage. And you see now it's starting to put a little current. And it's ramping up. But you don't want to go through that every time a shadow falls across your panels, and if you're moving, that would be quite often. So I guess it's still all solar power, but did not work quite the way I wanted it to. And this MPT7210A solar charge controller is about $50. So there you go.